Pokemon X and Y are widely renowned as the easiest generation of Pokemon, but just how easy are they? Are they easy enough that you don't need to throw a Pokeball to beat them? Well, I'm bored enough to both ask and answer that question. So today, I present, can Pokemon Y be beaten without throwing a Pokeball? Here are the rules. I'm not allowed to throw any Pokeballs. I also can't use items in battle, but I can use held items. MDB style. Link in the description. I'm not allowed to use any cheats or exploits. I'm also going to ban myself from using the daycare, as it levels your Pokemon way too fast in this generation. I don't really have many worries about this challenge. I mean, just look at the gym leaders' teams. None of them go above 3 Pokemon, and even the Elite Four don't have very scary teams. I mean, the only 2 fights I can think of which might be a threat is the final rival fight with our main rival and the champion. Aside from that, my only other worry is that I might be forced to catch Yveltal, but I can't remember. As Pokemon Y loads up, I think about which of the starters would be best. On one hand, Froakie is really useful, but we get a free Lapras shortly after the 3rd gym. Chespin seemed like a good choice because of its fighting typing, but then I realized it would be at a disadvantage in all 8 gyms and 2 members of the Elite Four. So for the sake of type coverage, I went with Fennekin. And Delphox is a pretty cool Pokemon, having high speed and special attack, along with some pretty powerful psychic type moves later on. I nicknamed my Fennekin Herbert, which I spelt wrong, but oh well. They have a gentle nature, meaning they have more special defense and less defense. Not a big fan of that nature, but I can work with it. Shauna then challenged us to a Pokemon battle. It's a 2-shot victory with Ember. Okay, so I'm going to go over my plan for this run really quick. Later on, I get to pick one of the 3 Kanto starters, and I'm going to go with Bulbasaur because, as I mentioned earlier, we get a free Lapras after the 3rd gym, and going 2 fire types just wouldn't be good for type coverage. And Venusaur is a pretty decent Pokemon. For the fossil Pokemon, I think Tyrant is the best pick, purely because our other option is part ice type, and Lapras is part ice type. Anyway, as I get into Santaloon Forest, Shauna starts to follow me around as I try to get through with as little fights as possible, mainly because I don't want to be over-leveled for the up-and-coming gym. I also pick up all the free items lying on the ground. Whilst using them in battles is against the rules, I can still use them outside of battles. As I leave the forest, Serena gives me the adventure rules. I take great care in reading through them meticulously. The first gym is Viola's Bug Gym, and it's not a threat at all. I even avoided all the trainers I could in the surrounding area, but Herbert still ended up being on par with the leader's Vivillon. Speaking of which, here's how that battle went. Herbert scratched Sir Skit to death and embered Vivillon, and with that, the bug badge was ours. As I left the city, Viola's sister gave me the XP share, which acts more like an XP all in this gen and in future generations. And then, Herbert got crushed to death by a Corphish. Maybe I need to level them up a bit. 1 level seemed to do the trick and Herbert got their revenge. Shortly afterwards they evolved into a Braixen. I then met 2 children which Professor Sycamore has employed to do something, and they take me to his lab. And this is where I remember I have to battle against all 3 Kanto starters before I get my next Pokemon. This might be the first challenging fight, outside of that Corphish. Bulbasaur was up first. I thought that since 2 of Sycamore's Pokemon are resistant to fire, it would be best to use 2 Howls to raise Herbert's attack. But then Herbert was Leech Seeded, and after seeing how little damage Scratch did to Squirtle, I thought I'd lost. Until Charmander just didn't attack, and we finished it off, getting us our 2nd Pokemon, Bulbasaur. I named them Toilet Grenade for obvious reasons, or I would have if it weren't for the character limit, so I settled on just Grenade instead. Bloody fun place. Grenade's moves are fairly good for now, and it has a gentle nature, same as Herbert, so usable. I then went downstairs to meet the totally not a bad guy, and was also forced to go to a cafe to meet up with totally not a regional champion and definitely just an actor, Diathene? Whatever. 5 steps later, Torino calls me on the Holocaster. Something about Route 5, I don't know, I wasn't paying attention. As I get to Route 5, a Lucario approaches me, and look, there are so many events that just happen, and it really is just going to boost the length of this video, and that's boring as all hell, so I'm just going to briefly mention them or straight up ignore them. Only major battles or important events are going to get an in-depth bit of babbling. When I get to Camphier Town, I have to do some story stuff that's super tedious and long and ends with us knocking out a Snorlax. In more important news, Grenade ended up evolving. I made my way down Route 7, avoiding a couple of trainers and steering away from the Battle Chateau. Near the end of the route, we have a double rival battle, but it was super easy. I then pass through Route 8 to get to Umbreon Town, where I'll find my third Pokemon in the form of a fossil Pokemon. Once I get the Jaw fossil, I head back to Umbreon Town and revive Fluffy the Tyrant. Its moves are decent and its nature is hasty, meaning it has more speed and less defense. I'm getting pretty unlucky with my Pokemon's natures. I then made my way to Silage City to beat Grant's Rock Gym. On my way to his gym, he gave me the Strength HM, so to pay him back for this, I swept his gym with Fluffy and Herbert, getting us the Cliff Badge. I then made my way to Geosenge Town and through Reflection Cave, in which Grenade evolved despite my best efforts to do what I do in real life and avoid people at all costs. I then get to Shala City where, after a gym battle, we'll get our 4th and 5th Pokemon. But before all that, we have a rival fight against Serena. It wasn't that hard to crush her hopes and dreams. I then promptly swept through the fighting type gym with Herbert evolving along the way. In the battle against the ferocious fighting type Fnatic, Grenade did most of the work, taking out 2 of her Pokemon, and Herbert came in and finished off the last one, getting us the Rumble Badge. Now it's time to complete our team. First on the 2-part list is Lucario we get from Karina after getting the Keystone to Mega Evolve, which I can do as I'm allowed to use held items in battle. And I name our latest recruit Fido. Their nature is hasty, meaning more speed and less defense, which is actually pretty good on a Lucario. After that, we go to this random Pokemon breeder for a Lapras, which I named Titanic. Their nature is docile, so no stat changes. I start to make my way to the Grass Gym, passing through Sorromain City and riding the monorail to get to the gym. But before we can challenge it, I have another rival battle with Serena. And like always, it was easy. Partly because Grenade can Mega Evolve, but mainly because there aren't any challenging rival battles in this game. The Grass Gym was easy, even with about half of my team being virtually useless in the gym and in the final battle. It was a pushover, so I guess I'll move on to the Electric Gym. At least I would, if there wasn't a chunk of story to wade through. One upside though is that Fluffy evolved, so now our team is truly complete. Now, onto the Electric Gym. The Electric Gym wasn't much of a challenge. Fluffy took out Emolga and Magneton, and Fido played an aggressive game of patty cake with the Helio Disc, and like that, the Vault Badge was added to my collection. On Route 14 I had a surprise battle with Serena, which I completely forgot about, but it was still sweet. Titanic took out the Meowstic, and Fido easily managed her Absol and Greninja. Moving on. I made my way to Lavier City to take on the Fairy Gym. Despite my team not having anything to deal with Fairy-type Pokemon, it was still easy. Herbert cremated the Mawile, Fido used Shadow Claw on Mr. Mime, and Fluffy brute-forced through Sylveon, winning us the Fairy Badge. I then went to the Pokeball factory for story shenanigans, before making my way to Anastar City. Or at least I would have if there wasn't more story shenanigans. Now I can go to Anastar City. And when I get there, Serena challenges us to another battle, and despite her brand new Flareon, it was easy. The gym itself was a sweep, so let's move on to the battle against the leader. Fido just Shadow Clawed everything until it didn't move, earning us the Psychic Badge. Finally, we can move on to the last gym, which is
Go save the world!
Or not, I guess. At last, the moment I dreaded from the start of this challenge. As Fido and I stood there before your battle, I clutched the Master Ball in hand, hoping, praying, that it wouldn't come down to it. Fido knocked out your battle, but it wasn't enough. No matter how many times Yveltal fainted. It just kept getting back up. So, I gave in. I threw the Master Ball. There was nothing I could have done to prevent it. And that answered the question that I asked in the most heartbreaking way possible. No, you can't beat Pokemon Y without throwing a Pokeball. But I didn't start this challenge just to give up now. I released Yveltal into the wild and made my way to Snowbell City. As I made my way to Snowbell, though, Professor Sycamore had a surprise battle in store for me. This is how that went. And then the time had come for some of the last rival battles. God damn it. We start by going up against Shauna. She has Delcatty up first, which Fido one-shot along with her Goodra. But Shauna's Chestnut was able to one-shot Fido. Somehow. But Herbert finished them off. Torino was next. He opened with Talonflame and I didn't have the chance to heal in between battles, so Fluffy was up first. But he was able to take them out with relative ease. Herbert took out Roserade and Grenade finished off the fight by taking out Crawdaunt. Last was Trevor. He led with his Raichu, but lucky for me I was healed in between battles, so Fido took them out with a couple of power-up punches. I didn't have a counter for fairy types, so Titanic brute forced her way through. Titanic then took out the Aerodactyl with one Ice Beam, putting an end to this trio of rivals and allowing us to move on to the 8th and final gym. The battle against the strongest gym leader, Wulfric, was a sweep with Herbert. That's kind of anticlimactic. Oh well, at least we have the final badge, so we can face our rival on Victory Road. For the last battle with Serena, I start with Fido, who takes out her Meowstic, Absol, and Greninja. Titanic takes out her Flareon and Altaria. Well, on to the Elite Four. Malva. The Fire-type Master is up first, so I lead with Fido to take out the Pyroar and switch to Titanic for Talonflame. Torkoal, however, takes her out, but Fluffy came in to avenge his teammate. Herbert then finishes off the fight against the Chandelure. I heal up in between battles and move on. Next is Wickstrom, the Steel-clad Knight. I lead with Herbert to blaze through Klefki, but Edgy-Slash took him out. Luckily, Titanic was able to finish that fight. Fido took out the Probopass, and Scizor fell to Fluffy. Just like that, we can progress further. Drasna, the Friend of Dragons, was our next challenge. Titanic took out Dragolag, but Fluffy had to come in to defeat the Druddigon. Similarly, Herbert had to come in to finish the fight by taking out Altaria and Noivern. I healed up after the battle and moved on to the final member of the Elite Four. I was worried about Seabold going into the fight. Titanic used Thunderbolt to take care of Gyarados, and Grenade swept the Chloritza, Starmie, and Barbacule. That was surprisingly easy, but I doubt this next fight will be. It's time to take on the champion. Diantha starts with her Hawlucha, but Herbert outspeeds and one-shots it. Tyrantrum is next, and Titanic, much like Herbert, outspeeds and one-shots it. Goodra is up next, and even though it got Titanic in the red, a couple of Ice Beams take it down. Fido was now in for the last stretch. Power-up punch one-shot Orios, but Gorgeous survives a Shadow Claw and uses Shadow Sneak. So I take the opportunity to Swords Dance Fido to hopefully one-shot the up-and-coming Gardevoir. Despite Diantha healing Gorgeous, Fido one-shot it. Finally, the moment of truth. Fido needed to both outspeed and one-shot Mega Gardevoir to win. And he did it, making us the champion without willingly catching any Pokemon. Thanks for watching this video all the way to the end. And one last thing whilst I've got you here. In the battle where I'm forced to catch Yveltal, or rather the battle immediately afterwards, I just spammed disabled. I forgot to record it, and I forgot to put it in the script for some reason. But thank you for watching. Hopefully I'll do more of these in the future.